Um, Good evening, everyone. I'm Lark Wyll, and primarily I don't think I'm known at all in the Ashes creation space. Mainly I dabble occasionally part-time as a streamer, and I posted some videos for a mobile game called Marvel Strike Force. So my first kind of hurrah, or kind of jump in the pool for content creation space, or just from a video content space, and sharing streaming and dabbling in that, has been for the mobile game Marvel Strike Force. And that's what I was going to talk about tonight, is comparing two completely different games and their outlook towards gaming. Sorry, I got a Nazi next to me, and he's I'm talking, so he wants to come and say hi. A little mouth breather underneath me. But I want to compare the two games, and I know they're completely different communities, and they don't have a ton in common, either from the style of game they are, the market they're in. One's a mobile game, one's an upcoming, massively marketed MMO. And the play styles of the games obviously are in different genres. So one's high fantasy, and they're both fantasy, but one's obviously tied to comic lore and that. And for those of you that are not familiar with Marvel Strike Force, it's kind of like a turn-based, I wouldn't call it an RPG, turn-based combat game, similar to what you could kind of see from like an early Final Fantasy without like a map layout. It's just kind of like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. That's another mobile game, very similar styled game to Marvel Strike Force. You guys are welcome to look it up. But this isn't to video isn't to go into the similarities or differences of the game. What the main purpose of why I thought to title this video this way and actually talk about the games is their different approach towards customers, the consumer, the industry of gaming itself. And I'm definitely new to all this. I've been playing games all my life, but from a business standpoint, I've just started to take an interest and follow the different kind of methods and learn about this more recently in the last year, especially since COVID, and mainly through Marvel Strike Force and mobile gaming, and seeing the directions a lot of these games take, and wondering if there's a better way and what the differences are, and why are so many of these games so short-lived. So that's what I'm going to kind of expound upon in this video. And most of it, the reason why I'm putting in the Ashes of Creation title is because that's where my interest is going. And I'm going to compare kind of what some other games may have done wrong. And even though they might not be major takeaways for the Ashes of Creation dev team or the community itself or anything like that, it might just be kind of talking from a fan's perspective as to why I appreciate the direction and the communication that I see from the Ashes of Creation team and the Intrepid team, rather. So I do appreciate them, and that's why I'm putting it in the Intrepid camp for this video, and not the Marvel Strike Force camp, even though that's normally where, if I do stream, that's normally where I'm at. All right, guys, so I got a list of little bullet point items here, and so I'm just going to wing it. I haven't spent a whole lot of time kind of developing this. This is going to be a kind of off the cuff, but maybe you guys find the dialogue interesting, and maybe you guys can relate it to some things that you've seen in other games or communities that you've partaken with in the past and played. You know, we all come from different kind of gaming backgrounds and play different types of games, whether they're MMOs or whether they're PC games or console games or mobile games, etc. I played, you know, all different platforms, so I can speak as a consumer of them all in a broad sense. So I'm just going to go through some options, guys. And if you're not familiar, guys, here, let me just show you. I have a couple things here. So this is the Marvel Strike Force right here. And I won't play the game unless you guys care to see it. I can show it to you, but that's what Marvel Strike Force looks like. That's their page. And when you go through their, I can go through my roster here, not to show you guys this, but this is generally speaking kind of what you're doing is you're going through like Marvel characters, selecting a team, loading it into a match, and then doing combat. So this is my roster. I've been playing this game for going on 3 years, a long time. And if I was going to go through achievements, I think it shows your days played. So my next achievement is 1,200 days, and I'm at 1,147 days, and that is consecutive. I have not skipped a day playing this game for, gosh, I feel like that's over 3 years. I haven't completely matted it up, but I think we're over 3 years now, guys. We're pretty darn close to it. Yeah, we're getting close. So that's where I'm at with Marvel Strike Force, and I'm considered an end game player in this game. And but again, it's not to talk about this game so much, guys. But that's just what the game I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to compare it kind of to Marvel Strike Force for a second, guys. But mainly, I won't show you that because again, I'm in the wrong community for that. So I won't be showing you footage or anything like that of Marvel Strike Force. Puppies, how you doing, buddy? It's a scam. Well, it is. But yeah, so we'll be talking about Ashes of Creation and Intrepid. But I want to show you guys the game that I'm going to be comparing it to. Puppies, my only follower, is from that community, and Puppies is Marvel Strike Force. While I have you here, if you got a second. Is Marvel Strike Force currently your favorite game? Because I'm going to start jumping into some comparison and contrast here, but I'm curious on your take. I know you follow a lot of streamers and you're very active in the Marvel Strike Force community, but is it currently your favorite game, or do you have another PC or console game that you prefer to play over Marvel Strike Force for entertainment value? Curious what your take is. It's the only game you play. Okay, and that's probably pretty normal for a lot of players because it takes up so much time in our day. A lot of us don't have time for any other games, so it really is very often for many of us an either-or statement. So it's you pick up one, or else if you decide to move on, it's going to be to another game, and you kind of quit cold turkey. It seems like a lot of players that have hung up Marvel Strike Force for either when World of Warcraft kind of relaunched their expansions or etc. A lot of them in the alliances I've been in with Marvel Strike Force have hung it up. Yeah, I play Valheim as well every now and again. It's a terrific game. I don't find it. I think if I was going to play Valheim a little bit more than I am, what I need to do is hop on Discord, and I would need to get into kind of a group server where people are playing together, doing PvP. Like I built a fun arena in Valheim, and then but I'm by myself, so it's kind of like I'm building all this stuff just for me, and it's a little bit empty and kind of desolate. So I enjoyed the adventuring, and I enjoyed the world building aspect of it, but I do feel like at this point it is a little bit lonely, and be fun to do some more. Somehow, like it needs to bridge that gap into more of a group content for me to continue on, and other than just building something out of my mind every once a month I hop in. Play more games probably. Yeah, so Puppies, I definitely enjoy MMOs a lot more in general purpose, and I'm kind of waning on Marvel Strike Force personally, and this isn't to back on Marvel Strike Force so much, but mainly just want to compare and contrast the two, and why I'm kind of like leaning towards exiting Marvel Strike Force as a player, as a customer, as a consumer, and also just as somebody that makes content, even if that's a very small. I've pulled back a lot on how much I stream and how much I post to videos, just because I feel like if you're producing content for a game, especially full time or any kind of active rate, it should be a game that you personally take pride in, you enjoy, you're enthusiastic about. That's probably the best way I could put it. And I've just lost that enthusiasm for the game just because there's so little game modes and development of the game. And I think tonight's bugged release of the new character, which I bought twice, so I spent I think $100 on 2 of her offers, trying to support the game. Hopefully they turn that corner, but it's just a very repetitive kind of path they're going down with no course correction, and I think that might be the last dollar I spent on the game. I'm not upset or frustrated. I'm frustrated, but I'm not upset with the game at all. But I don't think they're doing right by their customer, their consumer, and they're taking the consumer for granted quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to bigger and brighter things, and I'm really excited for Ashes, though I don't know a timeline. From listening to folks in Discord server over the last week since I've joined, I think I've been there. I just joined my first guild. I'm with Axiom. Obviously, it's just fictional because the game isn't launched, and but I just started talking to the community and doing those things, and they seem like a decent bunch. And we're are enthusiastic about the game of Ashes of Creation. So yeah, I just want to start learning more about it. I've been reading over the wiki, but it seems like it might be a couple of years out, and I don't know if it's coming out anytime soon. But I am enthusiastic for a new MMO. I'll probably play Brave New World or New World. Confusing the book name with it, and I'll try that out. The cash shop element of it, I don't know if that's going to suit my interest too much. But a lot of times when I play MMOs, I'm not competing personally for like world best or world first. I'm just playing for my own enjoyment, and I work full time, so as much as I love MMOs, I mean, a lot of these people are spending, gosh, every waking moment on those games. So am I ever really going to be competing to like level up my character fastest? Potentially, I could like time the release of the game and take a week or two off, depending on kind of how gutsy I felt with leaving work behind for that long, and then really dive into a game on launch for like a server, and really jump ahead and just pin my eyelids back and spend every waking moment on the game. And a lot of times it's really enjoyable, and I probably wouldn't mind that at all. But if I'm being honest, myself as a full-time career-minded individual that's not a full-time streamer or content creator, I'm not going to be competing with those the folks that are going to be hustling for like max level right out the gate. That's just not going to be the experience that I have, because it's not a race for me, and the MMO experience for me isn't a race. And maybe it's just I'm getting older, but like my favorite aspects, and let me jot this down, of Marvel Strike Force compared to, I already have it. I don't. That was communication. It's the community, and I'm getting to be an old softy, I guess. And maybe I'll start there as to comparing and contrasting, guys. And I'm going to kind of talk about some like bullet point topics, and kind of communicate my feelings towards the differences that I see between the mobile space game in general, but mainly Marvel Strike Force, and then what Ashes of Creation is trying to put out there and put forward and develop and create for their community. So the community itself, and I only have a short time actually following along with the Ashes of Creation community, reading the wiki. I've been on the Discord channel again for about 5 to 7 days. I don't exactly know the date I joined. I hopped in the Axiom, looked for a guild. I found a guild through their Discord channel. It was really easy to sign up. There's some immaturity in the Ashes Discord channel. I'm not going to lie. Some of it, it's not for me. But for the most part, like the NDA dropped today, guys. I know the NDA released for the verbal stuff, not the full NDA, but for Ashes, Steve and the Intrepid team decided to allow some verbal updates on the playtest they recently did the last few days or this week, and that was awesome. I thought that was great, and it's a really good sign that they're moving forward and progress. It's very early on in the alpha stages, or pre-alpha, whatever it's called, and but I think it's very good. I think the main alpha is going to be happening in July, and this was considered pre-alpha, if I have that right. And it's a very good sign to see that they're willing to put their foot forward and start making progress. And it's not going to be perfect, but just stressing that that transparency and building the community, and trying to make sure that the community feels that there is that forward progress, and that they're getting to look both through the window, but actually walk around the shop and get a feel for what's going on back there in the kitchen, so to speak. And I think that's a really healthy thing to do when there's a trust level between the community and the content creators and that they've invited in, and the backers that purchase the alpha and the pre-alpha packages through their shop. And there's a trust factor there. And is it all perfect from the community side that's partaking? Is there some complainers that's probably not fair to Intrepid? Sure. But for the most part, it shows that Intrepid and Steven are willing to trust that, hey, we know our game's not in perfect state. That's the point of these alphas. And we're going to allow you to come back here and test it, even though we just pushed back our main alpha. And I think that was a really positive sign to see. And the reason why not that sole reason, because I actually decided to back the game before the release of that today. I think it was today around the afternoon. The verbal NDA dropped, and so I backed the game. I think on Sunday or Saturday. I forgot what day it was. I want to say Sunday, and just from getting more comfortable with the community, talking to folks, and seeing the direction. And I've been enthusiastic about the game for a while. but this is the first game I've ever decided to like monetarily back well before its launch date, and without any, I don't even know when the ETA is, like an outline of it is, other than the alpha. I don't think it's been released yet, and I just had enough confidence in the direction and appreciation for the dev talks, and I've watched a lot of those 4K videos they posted to YouTube. I felt pretty confident about the direction they were going, and I normally would never do this. I'm not like a very gullible, trustworthy person, and I don't feel like I am in this case. I actually feel confident that they're moving in the right direction, and a lot of it's the reason why I chose to back the game is just because I feel it's needed. As a person that I think would enjoy this, I think they need to players like myself that have the means and are looking for something like this. I think it's a healthy thing to do of showing support and providing that kind of positive encouragement for this type of initiative, Ashes of Creation, to come to life, and really show support in the leadership there, mainly Steven and the creation team, to keep moving forward in that direction and show that they have support from the consumers, that we like what we see, we like what we hear, and we hope they keep showing growth. So anyways, the community. I can't speak so much to the Ashes of Creation community, though every sign I've seen from like listening to a lot of the streamers the last few weeks, and I picked up not a podcast, but it's like in the form of a podcast, but it was from Twitch. I think it's called The Golden Feather, and a wide range of backgrounds, it seems like, and age groups that were on the show and talking about it. And that wasn't the only one. I've listened to many by now, especially a lot today. And a lot of the streamers in the community seem to be coming from the right place. And I was really my sidecar companion here. I was going to say hi. But yeah, they're coming from the right place, and I was really a lot of them seem to be really good content creators for the Ashes community, and really positive people, and talking about the game and the community and all the lore and the different things that the MMO is aspiring to be in a very positive way, and both like acknowledging where there might be faults and where we don't know things and it's yet to be released, but also talking about the game in a healthy way, and it was nice to see. I think that's maybe it's just kind of where I'm at in my kind of gaming life and my interests, but I'm not really into flaming or the cancer stuff or any of the drama and all that stuff. I'm just really into kind of enjoying my time and appreciating things, and really trying to be a part of something that's kind of healthy and enjoyable and enjoyable experience and those kind of things. And not to say I won't PvP and never put somebody down like in the game, but for the most part, I want to be a part of a healthy community, and all this stuff is very important to me. So getting on to Marvel Strike Force, what I see over there is, it is, believe it or not, there might be a lot of similarity here, and this might be one of the few instances of the topics I'm going to be bringing up between the two games. Again, Ashes, this is just one of the images I have, but and then of the Marvel Strike Force, and then the two completely different games. I mean, you can just see from the one's more of an MMO, or is an MMO, and the other one's a mobile game just on your phone with a little slide view and roster kind of stuff. But so completely different. But the one similarity I think I see is the communities are awesome of both games, and both industries completely different. And the only reason why, literally the only reason why I still play Marvel Strike Force to date is because I'm tied to the community. And the other reason why is, I guess there's a certain amount, if I'm being honest, that I'm tied to my account. But like that's starting to fade. I'm starting to be comfortable with the idea of having healthier kind of activities in the meantime while I'm waiting for New World, or hopefully Ashes at some point soon in the next year and a half or so, to be released in a really good state, so I can dive into that. But the community is so strong and so good in Marvel Strike Force that it really makes me want to stay and want to keep giving them the 45th, 50th, 100th chance to fix their game, if I'm being blunt. And it's just not in a good state over there. But the community is awesome. I like, puppies, and you know this very well. The community is so great. I think a lot of us just keep playing or playing the game and logging in every day. It's just because the community just ties me into that social bond kind of aspect. And I feel like really that's a tether that even if I stop playing, like I see Puppy talking about there, but there's an element of like the community just really makes you enjoy the game. The game is bigger than itself because of the community, because of all the people that surround it, because of all the Discord channels, because of all the people that make it come alive. And a lot of the time the game has felt stale for like the last 2 years for me, and there's not much development or other than a constant stream of character releases. But the game modes have pretty much been the same for 2 years now. And the couple things they have tried, they pulled the plug on one, which I actually liked a little bit, which was an arena mode. I'm sorry, PvP mode. And then they came out with a separate mode called Real-Time Arena, which is kind of a load-in battle thing. You just fight two teams, but it's very imbalanced. It's currently still going on. There's a lot of specifics, and I'll kind of get into some of that. But the main thing about the game, guys, is that even through the thick and thin of all the things that aren't working or they don't feel great. I'm going to read Puppy's comments here in a second, guys. But the community is always the backbone of it, and there's a lot of salt shaking going on in Reddit. But if you just stay in Discord and your channels and your alliances, the alliance community is probably one of the best things that I think fundamentally that the Marvel Strike Force as a game has created. It's very similar to like a guild or an alliance in an MMO. It's just that those social bonds that you create of an MMO, like when you're walking around with your buddies, you're doing group content, or you're staging, okay, this Tuesday at X o'clock, we're going to go launch a raid or do this group content. Let's all try to rally and be there on time, and let's go have fun. And that's probably the one similarity I see between the two communities and two games that really holds it all together. And I really appreciate Marvel Strike Force, my time playing it, because of the community, because of all the people. Gosh, I've hopped around to probably about 8 to 10 different alliances, and I'd say I've only not liked my time. Actually, I can't say I haven't liked my time in any single guild. Some of them just weren't as competitive or didn't have what I was looking for from a competitive standpoint. But all of them seemed like good people, and all of them seemed like, for the most part, I would enjoy playing the game with them and talking with them about the game. And then I'd say about 80% of them, absolute home runs. I love talking to the guys and gals in there. It's mostly, I'd say about, 90-95% male demographics playing the game. But it's really nice when you find that group. Like I just found another one with, there's a Vengeance Alliance I'm with now. And they're terrific people. Higgy and Lizzle, the alliance lead, they're great. And it's really nice to play with them and play the game and just talk with them about the game and different stuff. And like a lot of times we're just like sending pet photos to each other and stuff in the Discord channel and stuff like that. But it's nice to have those bonds with people you're playing. And like a lot of times when I'm playing the game, like I'm doing raids or doing like we had a war tonight. And the war's fun, but really, for the most part, what keeps me logging on is the people I play with. So that's kind of my comment on that. So let me get caught up on chat here, guys, and then I'll get on to my next point. So Puppy says, I think the content creators have done a real disservice to the community with their constant whining. Yeah, Puppies, there's a lot of it. I don't watch a lot of it. You're definitely one of the... I watch quite a bit, but you definitely take in a lot. So you hear some things that I'm sure I don't, but I know there is quite a bit of it. Yep. Yeah, it's a mobile gacha game for sure. And I don't have a problem with the Red Stars. I've actually never been a big advocate of change for the Red Star system, just because that's what I signed up for. That's what I understood the game to be. It's RNG on RNG, and that's part of the gacha is what the game's about. And I can understand a lot of people don't like that element of it. That's more like an industry kind of through line of what I might talk about here. But I think they're transparent and fair with that. That's what they advertise their game as. To a certain extent, they don't say, purchase this character for X amount of shards. Like sometimes you get that, but there's always that RNG orb element where pull the orb and see what you get. And it might be 6, it might be 140, and take your chances. And that's just part of it. And so like, you always hope for more, like when you pull the orbs and always get those 6s, but it is what it is. And that's the Red Stars and the character orbs have never been a big deal to me. I feel like many elements of the game for Marvel Strike Force have been very free-to-play friendly. from an accessibility standpoint to actually play the game. I just think there's a very hard wall in endgame content to where unless you're spending tens of thousands of dollars, it's very difficult to see roster growth. But that's kind of a separate conversation. You know, playing the game and having accessible and free to play casually, I think the experience is perfectly fine. It's only when you're really trying to get very super competitive and as an endgame player to where it ramps up and you feel like, man, I'm really stuck. And those are two different experiences. And I think for the game, that's the normal ramping. That's how all of these games are. And I don't think that's really unusual or uncommon for the type of game Marvel Strike Force is. Yeah, I agree. Like Puppy's like my main frustration with the game is I know a lot of people are very frustrated with the bugs. I do think it is kind of obnoxious at this point with the amount of bugs and the lack of fixes that they don't do. The new character that just came out is bugged too. But I think my main issues with the game that I'm kind of going to talk about a little bit here on my points is that the lack of game development. That's for me is where compared to how expensive the game is, again, a lot of us are spending $50 to $100 per character minimum for every new character they release. Every couple of weeks we get a new character, and most of us are dropping. Not most of us, but the endgame players that are trying to be hyper competitive are spending quite a bit of money, and there's not a lot of game development or any game development. And there's it would be nice to see that. It'd be nice to see more game development outside of all of the monetization that they're doing. And this past year and a half, we've gotten about 4 to 5 modes and new elements of monetization, major changes in the game. But we haven't seen anything kind of hitting towards making the game actually feel like a game. In a significant way. And I feel like there's just a balance there that's missing. And I don't mind if it's like 80-20 towards monetization and 20% towards making the game feel fun and alive and, invigorated. But right now, I say for not even right now, but the last year and a half, it's probably been about 99% to 1. 99% has been the marketing and the monetization. And then you have that 1% has been QOL and responses to the community. And I think it's very evident with the Strike Pass, the Battle Pass, RTA creation, just as a mode to be as a vehicle for the Battle Pass. The character skins, so much of their development has been monetizing the game even more than it already was. And I don't have a major problem with that. My only problem is that I wish they would have just slipped in one new fun game mode in the last year and a half along with those things. Like maybe put skins into first quarter of 2022 and then release a new game mode that's fun now, or like sometime in 2021. And hopefully we get there, but it sounds like from talking from Cerebro that he was very much stating as the dev kind of PR guy that it would very much likely be until next year until we got a new game mode. And they've said constantly that it takes a long time to develop, and that's fair. It does take a long time to develop, but it sounded like they weren't actively working on it, or else it was in the very early stages. And I think that's just the kind of frustration point from my side, and that might just be mine. I actually don't hear most players talking about the lack of game development publicly. I'm sure endgame players talk in their Discord channels, but for the most part, what I hear, what I think the common or average player, and I'm not really, none of us are average players that are in the end game. We're the 1% end game, tryhards. But the 99%, I think normally what you see on Reddit is about the gacha mechanics that you mentioned, is that they don't like the red stars. I think that's the most common complaint. It's not really on my radar as something that bothers me. I think I've bought red stars like a total of once or twice in 3 years. But it is what it is. I've just accepted it long ago when it came out. Okay, that's just part of the game. But I think the average player is very frustrated by the lack of control at agency over their roster. And it can be, for sure. But I guess I've just accepted that. And I have no expectation for that to change because I know how much they're making from a general standpoint. I know it's very profitable, so there's just no way they're going to reverse course on that. So it's kind of like banging your head against the wall, asking for change in that direction is just very unlikely to happen. But yeah, let me get caught up again. Yeah, and Puppy, I agree with you regarding the character will be fixed and then blow over. That's for sure. I think for me and for longtime players, it's really just that it seems like most characters are released in a bug state, and compared to the price points for how much they're charging us for these, one offer of it is a AAA game. I think that's the rub. If I'm being fair and trying to have like a balanced conversation, yeah, I perfectly like. I was saying I'm probably winding down if I'm going to be spending on the game. Should I ask for refunds? I'm like, no, I bought it with my own intention. It's bugged. They'll fix it. It's fine. I'm not going to ask for a refund. It's perfectly fine. The team's going to be fine, and they've shown this. Like they released Skillterry. They'll go back and they'll fix the team and revamp them to where they're. They have a use, they have a function. I do think it's funky how they do that though, Puppies, if I'm being honest. How they release a team, it doesn't function well. And I think a lot of that time is they develop something like a team they're going to release to the game. And then many months go by, like a movie gets delayed due to COVID and all that stuff. And then the team kind of gets shelved and they release the team maybe 6 to 12 months late. But then the meta that team might have been kind of developed to be introduced into got pushed back, and then they're released into a meta that they no longer stand out in or perform in, and then they have to do a second pass on the team to make them relevant. But they don't do that pass until after they release the team. The community says, "Oh, we spent a lot of money on this and it doesn't function well. We kind of have a lame duck on our hands, and we spent a lot of money for." I didn't buy them because I thought on paper they didn't look good, but then they revamp them and they're sharp to perform pretty well in War, one of the major game modes of Marvel Strike Force, and then they've made right by it. But I think it's taken maybe 60 to 90 days, 2-3 months. But they did get it right on that one. But it did take a second pass for that team to actually make things right. Yeah, Puppies, I'll definitely. Are you on Twitch now, or you mean on YouTube? I'd be happy to send you a follow. Yeah, I know I'm subbed to your YouTube channel, but I haven't hopped on your Twitch. Let me get on there. Oh, perfect. Yeah, I think this might be like my last one for. I'll definitely stream more, but it'll most likely be for like other MMOs that are coming out and those kind of contents. I just don't. I don't want to have kind of downer conversations about games anymore. But let me find your stream, buddy. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck. I think a lot of folks will definitely tune into you. Puppies, are you under puppies or are you under hounds? Yeah. This name? Okay. Puppies, welcome. Very cool. Yeah, I do the same thing. I just do it for social. I think I've told you that, but you got one more follower, man. You're up to 43. I think you already got more than I do. That's awesome. Actually, I have no idea how many I have. I don't check very often. But yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I wish you luck. I'll definitely tune into you when I see you. I'm back working in the office now, so I'm not as at home as much as I was. In 95. Cool. Yeah, I think most of it, to be honest, the Puppies is when Mobile, a month or two ago, sent me a raid, and then a lot of them came from that. And again, I don't stream very often, so for the most part, I don't have a very routine schedule to be doing this to gain followers. I'm probably on stream for Strikeforce like once every other week, so it's not very frequently anymore, just because I haven't had a whole lot to be enthusiastic about. So usually if I stream, it's usually just for War, because that's the game mode I like a lot. But I'll start getting out to my other points here. So I mainly wanted to talk about kind of some overarching similarities and contrasts. So bug handling and overall QC was my next one, guys. And this isn't in any kind of order. This is just kind of what came to mind. between the games. And obviously, with the NDA being released, there's all sorts of bugs coming from the pre-alpha that are completely normal and expected in that kind of stage of game development for Ashes of Creation. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's from everything I'm hearing and listening to streamers. I didn't partake in the pre-alpha. I bought the, I think I'm going to be in the Alpha 2. I think it's that correct. So my first delving into the Ashes of Creation game won't be for some time. Probably many months after July when the Alpha 1 completes. And then I'll be able to partake, I believe, in Alpha 2. But anyways, so from listening to all the streamers and with communication on Discord, it seems like there's a very healthy amount of positive enthusiasm and comments towards the game as to kind of what state it currently is in. A lot of things that are actually in a much better state than the players were expecting. From talking to a lot of them, they were saying that combat still needs to be refined, but it's in a much better state in just general kind of looks and feel than many were expecting. So I thought that was positive news. I have not partaken in an alpha or pre-alpha before, but I expected the game to really be like a rough gray model, like not this game, but just games in general. So maybe I have low expectations, but from seeing all the footage of Ashes of Creation, I knew it wasn't going to be in that state because I've watched many of these videos multiple times now just to take it in. And it's nice background stuff to do while I'm working, and so yeah, I knew kind of generally speaking what it would be, but I didn't know where they would put them in the world. I still don't, and so I wasn't sure if they're going to put them in a developed spot or an undeveloped one to test things, because it's more of a stress test on their infrastructure for the pre-alpha. But anyways, so bug handling QC, and I'm sure that the Marvel Strike Force did, at least I hope they did, an alpha and a pre-alpha themselves. It's probably internal. They might have introduced some other early consumers to kind of test it, maybe content creators to go through and try to break things. That way they can do fixes. So I don't want to say that Marvel Strike Force didn't do those things themselves for the mobile game and genre that they developed the game for. But just in overall communication, and most of the people that if they ever watch this video or VOD, afterwards and try to take this in, they're probably going to know one community or one game, and the kind of talks from the leadership there, the development team, but they'll be completely blank on the other one. I'm probably one of the few people that have any kind of like bridge of those two worlds because they're so separate. And I won't say one of the few, but I just mean there's probably like 1,000 people that might have interest in both games. It's not a lot, at least at this stage of Ashes of Creation's development, which is pretty early. And so Scopely, Boundless, they've changed their name a few times now. Fox Next, the Marvel Strike Force development team keeps changing their name every 6 to 12 months. But anyways, currently they're going by Boundless, I believe. So they call them like Scopely, Boundless Studios. It gets kind of hard to remember. They just changed it like in the last month. But anyways, their stance towards bug is very reactive, and they don't have a large or significant quality control team or QC team and quality assurance, whatever you want to call the department. And most of what it's done is done through reactionary tickets and support that the player community is doing bug tests from. They submit a ticket, and then the development team is going through trying to verify it. They ask for a lot of video or screenshots to kind of verify the issue, which is probably normal. And I don't mind them doing that. I think that helps kind of like them filter and make priorities. So I think that's pretty normal for them to do, saying, hey, can you show us some kind of proof? It's validated. Okay, let's submit that higher up to the second stage for further review and to make sure or to validate what we see, like on the and they probably want to do their own validation, but they want to screen out as much as they can just to make sure their time is spent well. Especially if you have a limited staff, that makes a whole lot of sense to me. But the problem is there's so many bugs because they're not catching them up front. They don't have a large enough team on the internal side for the speed. It's probably not necessarily the size of their team. It's probably that it's a couple many factors, guys. It's the kind of the pipe or the flow of content that they're releasing is probably too large for the team size they have to check it all. And there's probably some external factors to that too, which is COVID, working from home, trying to get people focused, and all those different kind of things, difficulties hiring and training folks during all this. There's probably some variables. I'm not trying to make excuses, but there's probably some underlying factors that also make some of this stuff hard. But Intrepid is going through their business and development in the same exact time with the same exact challenges. But what I see as kind of a consumer is a different kind of conversation towards QC, quality control, pride in your craft, pride in your product. And that's the main thing I'm getting at is the product the main goal? Is the integrity and quality of the product the main goal? Or is it making as many dollars as you can? And so from a bug handling and QC standpoint, there's a much different thought process and that I see early on. And the game's not launched for asset creation, so in MMOs of that size, they're always going to have bugs. Like 10 years into the game, assuming it gets to the decade mark, which I imagine it will at some point, it's always going to have major bugs in the game, or maybe not major bugs, but it's always going to have some flaws in the background, whether it's a mathematical code on a certain damage output or a delay in a certain kind of casting animation. There's always going to be things that they're introducing that are going to need to be fixed. The worlds are very vast in MMOs. There's always going to be some land or rock that gets a little sticky, and that's just part of those games. They're just very vast and huge worlds, and it's going to require a lot more quality control and bug fixing to maintain a high quality game. But going forward with their development, what I see from Intrepid Studios and Steven in their approach to things is they want us, or not us, but they want the players that are taking part in the pre-alpha to actually go forward and try to break things and try to fix as much of the major things that they can early on, so that way when the game's being developed, from listening to them, that they want to be in the best shape they can to put their best foot forward and really deliver on a high quality product for the consumers and for their own vision of what they want the game to be. And I think that's very admirable, and it's one of the main reasons why I decided to back the game, was because they really sold me on the fact that they were putting artistic integrity first of what their vision of the game was supposed to be. And I haven't heard Steven call it that, but that's just like what I was trying to come up with a phrase or like a thought process or a way to conceptualize that is there's like a craft, and they're what they want the game to be again, and there's a certain kind of integrity towards whether it's artistic or whatever you want to call that, towards we're not going to compromise our certain kind of core values. It seems like one of the main ones for them is pay to win mechanics, and they want to keep that away from their game environment, and they really want to focus on the quality of the game and making the game kind of be the best of the MMO genre in their eyes as to what MMOs can be. Not necessarily it's going to be the most fun game or the most the game that the most people play, but they want to make, in their eyes, they want to make sure that the game is kind of like pure in the sense that they're striving for. And not that it won't be the most popular game, or that they're not trying to get the most people to play it. It sure seems like they're trying to market it and spread the word towards developing an interest in the game. But I mean, their main focus isn't getting it to be super popular, or isn't for it to be selling as much as they can. Their main focus is the passion project, and that's kind of the language I would put towards it from what I've taken in from listening to a lot of them talk. Is you can see it's not just from Steve or a lot of the folks that are on those streams, but you can tell that there's a cast of characters behind the scenes that are trying to work hard and develop a passion project that they're signed with and working towards. It might take many years, even more from where we're at now. Hopefully not, because I'm dying to get in there. But you can tell it's coming from a different space. It's not coming from a space of we want to fleece the consumer and make as much as we can. It's coming from a space of we want to get the game to be as good as we can. And I think that's an awesome place to start. And Scopely and Boundless for Marvel Strike Force have a different approach. And I watched early videos like 6 months ago where they first were developing the game, and they were having like employees do like Kung Fu and like martial arts, and they were taking some of those, they were doing like the biometric stuff where they would do the little dots, and they would kind of mirror their body movements through animations on their development side, and then they would put those animations and kicks and punches and like movements into the game characters, and that's how they would develop some of the animations. And I thought that was awesome. And you can tell they're really trying to be creative and go out of their way. It wasn't like they hired, not necessarily that they didn't, but the ones that they showed us on video were actually just random developers and engineers of the game that also, had a side hobby as being in martial arts, and they were incorporating that into their game development. I thought that was really cool. And they still have them up on their website if you guys care to see it. It's on, I think, their YouTube channel for Marvel Strike Force. And I'm not saying that they got too far away from that. I think those elements are still in the game because their animation, their arts, and the character creation they have is still a really good process, and most of them come out really nice. And it's one of the standout qualities of the game of Marvel Strike Force is their characters, and the artwork is of a high quality. And I'll kind of show you guys one if you're not playing the game and haven't seen it. Let me get over here. I'll kind of launch one. I probably have the new characters highlighted. Let me show you Colleen Wing. Where is she at? Is she higher? There she is. All right, so this is one of the new characters we got, and this is the model. And you can kind of see what goes into it. So she has a unique stance, and there's like accessories. She has tattoos. She's definitely, it's a very unique pose, and the hair's done pretty well. It's not perfect, but like from somebody that doesn't come from an art background, I can appreciate it. And here's the other new character, Misty Knight. And I just unlocked her today. It's not a big deal, but this is what her character looks like. So the modeling is pretty good. They have a unique kind of personality to them, and they have poses, and they have movements, and they have animations in the game. And their kind of facial structure is all different. And I'll show you guys Doom. He's somewhere down here. It's probably a more recognizable character. And so you can tell that how well they do from an artwork standpoint. It's well done. Both the capes, the hoods, the armor. It's a very nice job that they do. All right, so let me get back, and so no complaints from an artwork standpoint. That's not the issue with that game at all. But yeah, so like comparing and contrasting the two, I'll stick on the landing page here for one of my other backgrounds. Scopely doesn't. I don't think when they developed the game that they were thinking so much as a passion project. And not to say that none of the employees had that viewpoint, or they didn't have that as a goal when they hired on. They weren't excited to work on Marvel. I'm sure they have a lot of fanboys and fangirls that work there that love Marvel as a brand, and as an IP, and they can't wait to play it. Puppies, have it going, bud. Yeah, I'm going to be chatting to myself here for a little bit, man. But I hope you have a good night. Thanks for hopping on, and good luck to your Twitch stream, man. I'll definitely catch you out here this week. Next time you stream, I'll try to be on. Usually nighttime though is when I'm around now. But yeah, I think a lot of the Scopely and the dev team that developed Marvel Strike Force came from a moral standpoint of with a marketing and a profit motive. And I'm a capitalist through and through, a red-blooded capitalist. But there's a difference in the gaming community as to if the primary goal of developing a game is just for profits, there's something lost in translation between the development of that game. And that's where I feel like maybe this is the only way for a modern game, the way that, or not, maybe not the only way, but maybe one of the most true ways and highest chances to actually have it materialize is the way that Ashes of Creation and Intrepid Studios is doing right now as a passion project. Because if the motive starts out as we want to fleece the consumer and we're going to hire the largest quantity of employees that we're going to have are marketing wizards with very high-end degrees from a player psychology standpoint, and understanding gambling behaviors and developing metrics and data sets, and doing a lot of psychology into the buying behaviors and gotcha mechanics, and introducing as many of those mechanics into the game. A main one that Scopely and the Marvel Strike Force game does is what they call, and everyone in the community calls it, frustration mechanics. And it's basically making the game so difficult at so many different stages to where your only answer if you want to progress your roster or your gameplay is to open your wallet and spend money. And in this game, it's not spend pennies, nickels, or dimes. It's spending thousands, hundreds and thousands of dollars. Not hundreds of thousands necessarily, though some players do, but it's definitely hundreds and thousands of dollars. per year, per month, and per year if you want to compete in this game. It's a very, very, very expensive game. It's kind of ludicrous, if I'm being honest, and but that's part of the game, and that's where the Marvel IP is right now in the mobile space. It's a very, very expensive game to play, guys, and competitively. You can play free to play and casual and enjoy the game, and have a really good time playing the game free to play. And there's nothing holding you back from that, but you just very much so have to temper your expectations for how fast your roster is going to develop, and not be competitive with trying to compete with players that are spending in the game, because you won't be able to very well in this game. But yeah, those are two different places where they're coming from, like the core kind of source of where the game started from, like one. And I don't know every last background. I'm relatively recent in the following Asset Creation, but really where I see it going and where I see it coming from is from a place of a passion project, and with well-meaning intentions. Whereas Marvel Strike Force, I see coming from more of a marketing and sales background, and those are they're going to have two completely different outcomes. And with Stevens stating that no pay-to-win elements will take part in his game, Asset Creation that's eventually released, whereas that's pretty much all there is in Marvel Strike Force. Those are two. That is a dichotomy. That is two divergent paths. It's those are not similar standpoints at all. And so I'm almost embarrassed by how much I've spent in Marvel Strike Force, and I don't regret it necessarily. It's just it is what it is. But it's very interesting how those two. Or how the industries are different, guys. And I think that's if a lot of you guys played mobile games or console games, and I've heard EA games have gotcha mechanics and those kind of things. I think that's probably the future of gaming, guys, in many senses other than like console RPGs and those kind of things. But definitely mobile gaming, so much of it is just gotcha, and it's not even necessarily the gambling mechanics, but they're very expensive. These games aren't like box cost. And then you have the game unlocked. Kind of like, I bought a couple of months back, I bought Witcher Wild Hunt on a whim. I just never played it. I've been on Mac for a long time, couldn't. And I finally got an Alienware PC a few months back, and I decided to buy some like popular titles that were really well rated, and I thought stood up to today. And I'm still kind of I barely started it. I'll be honest. I do so many different things, but I'll probably dive in and do more of that game too at some point. But I do like the social games, so that's probably the part that's not making me want to dive in too much. It's a very solo adventure, and I do enjoy that. But I'm starting to, I'm getting older, especially during COVID. I was missing more of the social aspects, like in my life. So I kind of want to do more of that. And so yeah, kind of playing more towards the social kind of games that have a little bit of interaction, whether it's on Discord. I really enjoy talking to people on Discord and building those bonds and communities and being part of that, and in the games I play. And it's not a requirement, but I do like being a part of like guilds and alliances, and the MMO genre really appeals to that for me. So anyways, the kind of reason for the game's experience, one's a passion project, Ashes of Creation, and the other one, Marvel Strike Force, was sales and marketing based. And they wanted the IP to leverage the sales and marketing. It wasn't they wanted to secure the IP, the rights to build a mobile game in order to produce the best game they could from like an artistic integrity standpoint. It was more for, we can make a lot of money off of this IP, and we know how to do it. And so those are two different things. I'm not trying to like degrade one or the other. I don't think making a profit's a bad thing, guys. I think producing profit's a very healthy thing and a very healthy pursuit, and they're not doing anything wrong by doing that. They're making a whole lot of money off this Marvel IP. They're just not producing a very high quality game, and that's all right. But those are just, and that's just a product of their motive, and their motive isn't, their primary force is to produce a return for their stockholders and their shareholders and all the investors they have, and it isn't to produce the absolute best game possible for the consumer. And whereas I see Ashes of Creation as more of when your motive is lined up and that's what you're aiming for, and you tell yourself in your mind, I can do this, this is what I want to do, and then you start building towards that direction. And there's less, I'm sure they're going to be, you know, veering off course here or there, but there's a much higher chance that they steer true to that aim if you start with that as your North Star. Whereas like Scopely and Foxnext's North Star when they were developing the Marvel game, Marvel Strike Force, was let's make as much money as we can, and they've done that. So their North Star was profit, and what was lost along the way was the quality and development of their game, and that's because it wasn't their primary motive or interest, and that's completely fair. And it's not a knock on the developer. They're in it to make a buck, and they've made a lot of it, and they're very good at that. So that's something to be applauded. It's just not necessarily great for the gaming community, guys, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. All right, so talk about bug handling. The next one I'm going to do is talk about pay-to-win elements. So we all know it's very common that Steven and Ashley Creations are completely against pay-to-win elements to be involved in Ashley Creations, so he's going to keep as much of that out as possible. I've heard some talk about some kind of an early head start servers, but it'd be reset at some point, or else they're most likely to be servers that die. I don't get into all that necessarily right now. That's not my main point. So I'm not gonna say that there won't ever be like an ounce or an iota like of pay to win in Ashley Creation, but that's their goal. And I think for the most part, from listening to them, I trust that that's what they're going to try to aim to do. So I'll take them at their word. It seems like they, especially after hearing Stephen make some comments to New Worlds online, I thought he was standing his ground and kind of speaking up for the community that's hoping for less of those mechanics in shops and storefronts to be introduced into our games that kind of erode the quality of the game and the spirit of the game. So I applaud him for doing that. I don't think he did anything wrong, but I can understand from his standpoint, his title, and his role in the industry that it might not have been kosher, but from an average consumer, personally, I didn't have anything problem with it, and I understand where he's coming from, and he's passionate about it. And again, it's a passion project, and it's very clear in how seriously he takes it and his stance on it that he cares, and that's awesome. So the pay to win elements for Marvel Strike Force are everywhere. So there's just every element of the game, guys, in Marvel Strike Force is buy to get ahead, spend hundreds to get a little advantage, then spends thousands to get a lot of advantage. And there's just more and more of that in the game. So it's just completely different games. And again, I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but I do think it's not like the best gaming experience for the consumer that's trying to play a game, is that people are able to buy huge advantages, but that's really what makes the world go around, is money, and it's what makes this game get produced and all these characters come out. But again, the main problem in Marvel Strike Force is the only thing that gets produced in this game is the content that they're selling, is the new characters. They just keep releasing a steady stream of new characters, but the game isn't being developed because they haven't figured out how to monetize new game modes. So it's just kind of been in a static state for about the better part of 2 years, guys. And whereas I think the MMO and one for Ashley Creation is the new, even though they're not going to go with a box cost, they're going with a subscription model. The subscriptions are going to be the key factor in the metrics of profitability, is that returning and concurrent subscriptions are going to be the way to develop further content for the game. So it's not going to have to be, it might also be skins and those kind of things that are aesthetic or cosmetics rather. So I think that's what they call them in the MMO industry. So cosmetics, it sounds like, will be sold. I don't know if they're going to be, how they'll stand out compared to in-game items that can be freely obtained, but there won't be any pay-to-win elements. So yeah, I'm very happy to hear that. I think it's a really positive thing. But those are the differences, and you can see the tale of it's like a very divergent path these games are going through. Ethics. It's hard to really state that. I don't have a large background of knowledge for Intrepid Studios or the individuals that are running it. From everything I've heard on their videos and listening to all their content and taking it all in, partaking in the Discord channels, listening to different kind of feedback, it seems like there's a high level of integrity and direction for the game. So I'm very hopeful that they are a high integrity company, or company with high integrity. Let me restate that. With Scopely and Foxnext and Boundless, who've developed Marvel Strike Force, I won't say that they don't have integrity. That's not what I'm going to say. But it's like the soft skills of integrity, like the integrity to produce a high quality game for the price points that you're charging. Those are more of like the integrity. I don't mean that they're not honest or that they're not trying to make a dollar and they're honest about that. That's all I'm saying. Or I don't think they're lying to the community in any major ways or anything like that. I think there's a little bit of lack of ethics from a standpoint of when a consumer is like paying to support your brand, you should be investing a certain amount back into your business to develop it and continue to make it better and stronger and expand it. And I can tell you from a consumer and watching this game, I feel like, and this, I'm not sure if this is common in the industry or not, but it seems like a lot of the money, or let me say this, it seems like 95% of the money is not being put back into the game development outside of employee salaries. So employee salaries, I don't know what percentage of their, their rate that is. But outside of the employee salaries, it seems like a very small percentage, less than 5% is getting put back into game development. And most of it is getting put back into either developing other games or else just straight to revenues and salaries and bonuses and profits and all those things. And I'm not saying that all those things have to exist, but the lack of game development seems like it's almost a dead end road, other than the new characters being released, and they're not developing the game, and they're letting it stagnate, and they're taking the current subscribers for granted. And in an MMO, I don't think that would happen. Like, you have to continue to release new content as the old content is conquered by a large percentage of your populace. And World of Warcraft is very kind of anchor example of that in the space, and a lot of they have to release expansions, and the world has to grow, and they have to provide new kind of raid content and new frontiers of the game to advance onto, to keep the players excited and keep coming back. And if you ever watch the World of Warcraft kind of like graphs of like when their players are and their subscriptions like spike up, it's always around the new expansions to release. There's a level of hype that comes with that. That's just part of the MMO genre, at least the World of Warcraft model. And there's a spike of players that come back to the game and try it for a certain period of time, and then that eventually falls off. That's just probably the natural scope, and it probably will be for Ashes of Creation as well. Hopefully it's a higher floor and higher ceilings, but I think all of games are going to have that. When new content's released, there's a spike of invigoration to the game where people get excited, they want to check it out, and they're going to come and see it for themselves. But when there's no new content, you're just kind of a flat line. And that's just eventually going to taper off lower and lower. And Marvel Strike Force has been going down that path, which is, I find, very interesting, where their profits aren't tied necessarily to the content in their eyes. It's tied to the new characters being released, so the content's not being developed. Whereas in an MMO and Ashes of Creation, I'm sure there are a lot of their content or their profits could come in the form of skins and cosmetics for their shop, but a large portion of their profits are going to be tied to subscriptions, and so they're going to, in order to for players to justify those subscriptions, eventually that'll mean new content for the game has to be developed, a year or 2 years after the game comes out. And that's just maybe differences in the industries, and from a mobile game compared to a MMO, PC-based MMO. But I appreciate the MMO for that, is that there's an interest to always continue forward and keep moving forward to those new frontiers and showing the players different things. And there's kind of like new challenges, and hopefully they have a plan for that as to kind of what they want, both like story, both development of the game further, and maybe abilities, maybe levels, maybe landscapes, all those different things. And the note system, perfectly, or specifically in the game, it might get more unique. I imagine the water content and naval warfare in Ashes of Creation might be an element of the game that gets more fleshed out and more further developed, especially on the undersea environments, as years go on. And that could be one of the next frontiers after the initial release. So excited for all those things. And I think that's really fun stuff. All right. Improvement over time. And I kind of just talked about that, but there's another kind of subject I wanted to talk about briefly. But I think I just pointed out to that. But I will say, I've covered that with Marvel Strike Force, but regarding improvement over time, I will say this for Marvel Strike Force, their bugs from a QC standpoint are just, they've always been bad and they continue to be bad, and they haven't done anything to change it because, again, that's not tied to their profits, so they're not, they don't care to improve it. It just is what it is. This is the buggiest game I've ever played in my life, and I can't imagine playing another game that's as buggy as Marvel Strike Force. It is what it is. It's just part of the game. I've accepted it. Half the time I just laugh and roll on. I'm like, wow, another thing's bugged in the game. And they're like significant bugs. Like, things just don't work. I don't mean like, hey, he's got 2 left shoes. I mean, the character doesn't work as advertised, or they dump too much gold into our accounts by hundreds of millions. There's just very large bugs in this game. Usually it's character related, like an ability doesn't work as it's stated, or else they don't fix the text on one of the character abilities for 2 years. It's just those are the kind of bugs that go on in the game. But usually it's like they have the wrong reward for an orb that they're trying to sell us in the store. That's probably the most common, or wrong price point, something along those lines. But anyways, it's very buggy. For actually creation, it seems like they have a different kind of take on growth over time. And from listening to different streamers talk about it, it seems like the game from the pre-alpha days, I think they call it like Zero Alpha or Alpha Zero. I think they talked about it like the combat's changed from Apocalypse, and they've gone in different directions. They've taken in player feedback, the community feedback, and they're moving in a direction that they think is going to be better and more healthy for the game long term, that a lot of the players are going to enjoy and really like. And I've heard Steve and the development team talk about, they absolutely know that unless the combat is right and enjoyable, and the players of the MMO like the feel, the look of the combat, the game will ultimately fail. They know that's one of the core pillars of this type of game and the industry they're in. The combat has to be good. They understand that, so they're taking the time to gather feedback and do steady improvements and keep tweaking it. So it sounds like, and again, I haven't been in the game, but from everything that I'm hearing from players, the development team, and it seems like they have the right approach, and they're approaching it in the right way. So from an improvement over time, I know that's just one element of the game. There's all sorts of other things that they're doing to improve the game, both from I've heard there was a little bit of rubber banding in the pre-alpha that came out from the NDA today. But it's all like, from listening to them, like I said, yeah, after the same day or the next day, all the rubber banding was gone, or it subsided heavily, and they were working on fixing that. So it shows that there's an understanding of what needs to be in the game, needs to be tested, and they're willing to do the work to make it right and do the fixes they need to. You want to come say hi? Being shy? You want to come say hi? My little Aussies. He's not so little anymore, I'll say that. He's a big boy. But you want to say hi? He doesn't like being picked up. I'll kind of show you guys, but he's a big one. I'll try to put this up here. There you go. You say hi, Hanson? Say hi, buddy. Say hi. He's got his little bone. And now my screen's going to be all jacked, but it's okay. Yeah, sorry for making anyone dizzy if I did. But yeah, so I think it's really, I can't throw it, it's going to be loud. I like the direction they're going, guys. I really do. So I got a couple last notes, guys, in the stream. Got to work tomorrow, but frustration mechanics is primary gameplay. And this is kind of tied into New World, and I heard some sentiment about this, so I'm not going to claim the thoughts are my own on that. But frustration mechanics in Marvel Strike Force, the mobile game, they viewed their game as being, it is not intended to be enjoyable. They intended, again, because their motive is to make as much money as possible. And again, their marketing guys and the development teams, these guys have very high engineering and psychology degrees, and they're very much, they know the data is in this type of game, which is Marvel Strike Force. If they make the game as easy as possible, people won't spend, or else they'll quit, because they're going to conquer the content too easily with the roster that they have and they developed, and then they'll move on to a higher challenge in a different game because this doesn't interest them. It's too easy. And so they've taken the exact opposite standpoint. They said, we're going to make your roster progression so difficult, so molasses, it's going to take forever. We're going to bottleneck every resource, and all of your character progression is going to be locked behind paywalls for endgame content, and very significant, heavy paywalls. I mean, like, to get Dr. Doom, the character I showed you guys, it's like I can tell you how many people spent thousands of dollars to unlock him, and he's not even the best character in the game. Like right when he came out, it's so funny. He's a good character. He's very, very good, and he's awesome. I like watching him. I like playing with him, but he didn't revolutionize the game, and people spent so much money to get him. It's crazy, and he was encouraged by the price points that the games put out. They put a valuation on all their offers that's so high, it leads you to believe what they're selling you is worth it, but it's not. They're just selling you what you're willing to pay. And those are two different things, guys. It's basically, those are two interesting standpoints, but it's basically, in Scopely, the Marvel Strike Force development team doesn't like try to sell you a horse like an Ashes creation with a decent valuation of what they think it might be worth, or a common price in the mobile, or I'm sorry, in the MMO space. Okay, other games charge you like $10 for, transport thing. Maybe they, and again, there's no pay to win, but I'm not sure if how they're going to do the rounds or what that will be. But whatever let's say a dress and a coat, for cosmetics. So no stat or transportation, gains at all, just purely cosmetics. And they'll try to compare that to other cosmetics and try to get a baseline as to price points that people will spend and what's like equitable for this, in the market. They're not going to charge you $100 for a coat. Probably it's probably going to be some kind of, $5, $10, $20 piece of cosmetic for an outfit, somewhere on there. And but in my boy wants to play. But in Marvel Strike Force, they will definitely charge you what you're willing to pay, guys. So there's a lot of offers here, and I'll kind of go through it. I won't show you guys a bunch of them, but if you guys ever play the game or you're aware of it, they'll sell you characters for $50, and they come out every 2 weeks. They'll sell you some materials that you need thousands of just for a couple characters, and they'll sell you those at like $25 a pop, and you might have to buy that like 100 times just to equip it on 3 or 4 characters. So just thousands and thousands of dollars just to advance your roster in this game, guys. If you want to do it like in any time before the end of the year. So it's very expensive. So again, the frustration mechanics in the game as a core gameplay for Marvel Strike Force in the mobile game is the game isn't intended to be good or enjoyable or entertaining. The game is intended to frustrate you into opening your wallet to ease the frustration. So every game mode they have, whether it's raids, whether it's war, arena, they call it Dark Dimension, which is like a kind of like a duration mode. I'm not sure how else to state it to people that don't play the game. There's all very heavy elements of frustration mechanics to make you again have a hard time at some point in the game, get stuck and say, okay, I can't go forward, I have to spin to advance, so let's, and then the player has a choice. They're not putting a gun to your head, but if you want to ease up on the frustration, whether it's to do less of a certain game mode, there's all sorts of like pay to skip ahead elements in these strike passes. You can skip 30 levels of a strike pass or a battle pass they're selling you to do less of it, less of the grind, and then to get the rewards faster. Then they'll sell you the pass like twice. Like they'll sell you 30 levels, you have to buy it, and then you can buy 30 more levels of progression. So it's like they'll sell you the pass, and then they'll sell you progression on the pass. So the pass isn't free like rewards. You actually have to do a lot of work with it as well. So anyways, that's Marvel Strike Force. And from listening to New World, the conversation with their cash shop, and listening to Asmongold and other people have videos on the pay-to-win elements of what they're planning to release, and then reading Stevens from Ashley Creation and Intrepid Studios' reaction to that, there's some elements of pay-to-win and is only the end-game content, this is what I was getting at, I guess, is only the end-game content worth doing in MMOs, and specifically in New World. So are they going to create a problem and then sell you the answer to the problem, which is like faster experience gains and those kind of things? And I'm not trying to out New World. I haven't played the game or done much research into it, but just kind of talking about just general philosophical differences in gaming industry right now that I see as a consumer. And a lot of the commentary that I'm saying, whether right or wrong, hopefully I'm not peddling a misconception and misleading anybody, but it seemed like it had like prominent people actually were in agreement that it might be this way, and it looks to be this way, which is seems to be kind of a fallacy of it's not just for convenience. The XP gain in New World in their cash shop isn't just for convenience of players like myself who have limited time to play the game, because we work full time. You know, I have families, and you know, I have dogs, and we're just busy, and I can't keep up with, you know, Mr. Jackson down the street, because Mr. Jackson is playing all day, and Miss Jackson is kicking my butt. They're about, you know, 200 hours further ahead of me in progression in the MMO, and the only way I can keep up or catch up is to pay for like a boost, right? And so that's what New World, I guess, is apparently going to put out in their shop. And what they were saying is it's just a convenience, and it's not intended for anything else. And I'm paraphrasing. And then I've heard a lot of prominent people in the gaming industry state that, well, that's not actually the case, and it's that's a fallacy, and it's actually intended to just, you know, be for the profit motive, and it's there. It is what it is. But they were saying if the game was, or they're saying if the game is good, and this is my main thing. I haven't been staging this very well, guys, so I apologize. If the game is good, you shouldn't have to skip ahead as, you know, a full-time career-minded individual like I am, to skip all the content between like level 0 and 80 just to do the level 80 content for endgame, you know, the endgame boss and raids and PvP and whatnot. It should be about the journey and all the content in between. It shouldn't just be about the max endgame content. There should be something going on between all those levels before, you know, beginning, mid game of New World or whatever game it is, the MMO. That's an enjoyable experience and is as fun and good of experience and good of an offer to players to experience as it is for endgame players. And I had a conversation with somebody in my actually my own like alliance in Axiom for Acid Creation already, and kind of went a little sideways. Like I wasn't at all. I just let it go. But the other players seemed to be somebody like me that was, you know, busy and full-time work. I think he sounded like he's owned multiple companies and etc. And I won't say their name or anything like that, but sounded like a very busy guy, and he had a lot going on. And good for him. It sounded like he had his head screwed on straight, and he was trying to do well in life. So I applaud him. But he was in favor of like transport mounts and or flying mounts for if you want to pay for it in Ashes Creation. He was hoping that mounts would come to the game that are flying, so that way he could skip some of the more monotonous or dead time of kind of traveling around on the world on foot or on a mounted, you know, horse or something, to get from point A to point B to experience the better content with the limited time he had playing. And I just made the quick point that, you know, from my standpoint, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with it. Not necessarily in the scope of Ashes of Creation, because I know Ashes is very much limiting flying mounts, but I just mean in games in general. If everyone has flying mounts, personally, I don't have a major problem with it, other than aesthetic or like the goal of the game and how much they want to limit travel and make that part of the game. But you know, I do get myself like when I have to spend 10 minutes like walking through a castle just to get to an NPC. You know, that is especially when it's the 15th time you've done it today. It's, you know, it's just a lot of wasted time. So I understand that. If you have to walk in certain areas and it takes a long time, I completely understand. Like it needs to be sped up at some point to allow you to teleport and quickly move around. And there is an element to like the quicker you can get to things that you enjoy doing, the better your enjoyment rate is. So it's not even just about, yes, so somebody that can quick travel with a mount is going to be more profitable, because they might get to a resource and take that resource from somebody else that's kind of getting there on foot. So by the time the person on foot or on a mount is getting there, the resource has already, you know, been gathered, for example, or the boss is already beaten because it took him so long to get there, and the flying traveler has already knocked it down with his guild. So you guys know where that goes. So there's always going to be, and you know, that just gets advanced, and over time that monetary advantage will be significant. You know, if you're paying for a flying mount and then other people don't have access to it, if they're not going to pay, and you know, I would pay. But I don't necessarily want it to come to the game. I'm just saying, you know, that's just the nature of these games. If you pay for an advantage, that advantage is going to stack over time, and it'll be more significant. So it's not just an experience thing that is a problem with it. It's also an XP thing from the game and a financial aspect in the game. The benefit of it is that the person that has limited time will actually be able to experience things in the game and have a higher enjoyment level per minute they're playing on average. If they're flying to things, like if you see Asmongold, in World of Warcraft, if you have to do all that stuff on foot, the game wouldn't be anywhere near as fun to watch. It wouldn't be anywhere near as, on stream, or anywhere near as fun for him to play because he has so much dead time moving around the map to jump around. Like I was watching the bulk of his stream that day where he recently got 3 mounts and he's really excited about it. I think I missed the last one. I caught the first 2 and I missed the last one. I had to head out. I was happy for him. But if he was on foot and you can teleport around to all those things, that's impossible. You'd spend hours upon hours moving around the world trying to get to these locations to do certain activities. So both from a streaming standpoint and also just as a player enjoyment standpoint or from an entertainment value, your entertainment per minute is lower the slower your travel is in the world. Like, if I have to move very slowly from one NPC to another and it's really slow, you're going to quit the game. That's just the reality of gaming. I tried Disney Sorcerer's Arena, another mobile game. They made you play Arena in 1x instead of 3x. I quit. I'm like, nope, not doing it. It's too much time. I'm not going to play your game because you're not going to produce a good game that wants us to be logged in. So you're going to slow down a game mode so much to where it shows that we're logged in forever. So our metrics show that we're logged into your game because it takes so long. Well, yeah, same thing in MMO. If you have to walk 1 foot in front of the other all the way to the castle to go do a raid, that's going to take a long time. I want to sprint there at the very least, if not be on a very fast mount or fly there. I don't want to do baby steps all the way to some objective, right? So I can see the argument for players that want to do fast travel because they have limited time and they want to get to the fun content, and they want to try to catch up and do those kind of things. So there's an argument to be had. I just think it needs to be a fair argument and acknowledge that it also has an advantage in other senses other than just experience and entertainment value. It's also an advantage for monetary and experience in the game because if you're able to do fast travel and move around a lot like that, just like the scientific notes offer, fast travel and teleportation, that's an advantage. It's put in there. That's their superpower. It's a power. It's a big deal in the game to be able to move around like that. So I just think having a fair view towards that is interesting. I forget where I was going with that, guys, but I like that Actually Creation is starting from a place of integrity and they're thinking things through. Will they get everything right? I'm sure people will have problems with everything, especially because they're setting such a high bar and they're trying to have integrity and trying to do things from a principled standpoint. And a lot of these things are, shades of gray, like everything else in life is. And there's going to be some person that just has a very staunch view on something, some element of the game, and it's going to go a different direction, when it goes live. And I'm sure some players are going to say, or really try to put their foot down on something that might be arbitrary to 99.9% of the players, but it really matters to that 1 or 2 individuals, and they really get frustrated by it. But I think for the whole, based upon the way that they're going, if you have more of a, an adult viewpoint in life and that things aren't perfect and you just do the best you can and try to make sure that you're trying to guide things in the best way that you can with whatever influence you have, if you care about something and care to, have a voice. If you look at the way that Steven and Intrepid's doing things, I think out of all the studios that I've followed at all or listened to, I have the most trust and faith in them to try to take that path. And will they get everything perfect? No, but nobody ever does. But I seem to have some level of faith. I don't know why, but it's maybe just I appreciate their approach of transparency and talks. And so yeah, that's what I'll play in with, guys. Is that for summarizing why I decided to back Ash's Creation, and I've never done that for a game that was in alpha, or actually I've never backed a game that was pre-launch other than just buying the box cost and playing it, which really isn't backing at that point. That's just playing the game and paying for the consumer kind of experience. But I think it's just those things, is that there's an ethical kind of standpoint to what Ash's Creation is doing, the path they're going down that leads to consumer confidence, and I think they've sold me on that. It's just, that's what it is. I'm losing consumer confidence, so I'm going to boil this conversation down to a nutshell. Is like I'm losing consumer confidence in Marvel Strike Force, and I'm thinking about stop spending on that game. I spent thousands, probably about 1,000 or 2,000 a year on that game, and I'm probably gonna be shifting that money to a game like Ashes of Creation. And not to say that I'll spend all that money on Ashes. You probably don't have to, but I'm very happy to support the game because I appreciate what it's doing, and a lot of the stuff that I felt like was missing in my game experience the last year playing this game. I feel like that gap, a lot of it, I've just realized, you know what, like it just speaks to me, like, and a lot of stuff. I will say the one thing is again the parallel is the awesome community seems to be apparent in both, and I appreciate that. And I wouldn't want to go to another gaming community or game where it didn't have a strong community to it, and it was in a healthy kind of environment. I'm not sure everything's gonna be positive and roses, and that's not what I'm saying, but listening to a lot of the streamers that are already covering the game, and listening to Discord channels and talking to the guild that I joined, Axiom, it seems like a lot of people have a lot of really positive things to say, and that's probably pretty standard for a game that's in pre-development. A lot of people that are sticking it out and trying to tune in early are probably people that are more hyped on it than average. The people that are kind of more lukewarm or wait and see, aren't in the Discord channels and aren't paying attention and aren't talking about the game 2 or 3 years out pre-launch. So it's probably just comes with the territory to a certain extent. But when I've watched the live YouTube channels videos of when Intrepid does their kind of dead diary stuff or dev diary stuff, and they'll go on their mounts and show you kind of how the world's going, and a lot of the community feedback when you watch either live or the replay, a lot of the feedback is very, very positive, even when like the fireball animation wasn't perfect. And my first reaction was like, oh no, the twirly Circus 360, I don't know if I like that. It's like overly flamboyant was my initial reaction, and I can go for a stylistic kind of thing. And I just watched Castlevania, and the female lead in that is doing all sorts of stuff just like that. And it's awesome to watch in the cartoon. But from a game like an MMO standpoint, it seems like a little non-utilitarian. It didn't seem very functional. And they took the player feedback, and it looks like they've not modernized it, but they modernized it for like an action PvP MMO or in a live combat MMO. So they made it more fluid. And so it was like more of a quick cast kind of ability to where you can use it on the fly and not be rooted so much. And I thought that was nice to see. It was nice to see small things like that from a game. Here's a common viewpoint that the players are expressing. Not even players, just people that watch your video and have a thought process or a shared kind of idea with some upvotes on a YouTube channel, and they took that feedback and they said, you know what, let's listen to our community, and we value their opinion, and let's think it over, and then we'll tweak it and play around with it internally, and then we'll show them the change, and with that feedback in mind, and kind of understanding where they're coming from, and do they have a point, and kind of validating that against what they're trying to accomplish, and then making that improvement. And I thought that showed a lot of maturity and direction, and kind of, it was a nice thing to see from a game that you want to believe in and want to do well, that they're taking community feedback even pre-launch when they're just trying to get their feet underneath them and really develop things. And they're taking the time to not sprint to the finish line, but actually make it right along the way, and they're willing to slow down and reduce some of their work in order to make the finished product. Again, it's that, what's the goal? It's the passion project. It's about getting the game right for the quality of the game, not necessarily for the consumer, because the consumer's an intangible thing, but they're going to try to make the game as best they can, within reason. You have to launch it at some point. It's never perfect, just like you're going to be a parent. You're never perfectly ready. You have to go be a parent at some point. But they're going to try to clean things up as much as they can, and get everything situated, and then they'll launch the game and make improvements from there. I think as a consumer that's been following along, I have faith that they're going to get there, and that's why I chose to back the game. But again, guys, I'm Lark Wyll. I'll probably eventually start streaming the game once I have access to the Alpha 2. That's when I'm going to be hopping in. For those of you guys are kind of watching along, hopefully it's, it's just kind of playing some music in the background. Hopefully you can hear it a little bit, but just kind of having a basic chat about kind of what I see in the kind of gaming industry from two completely different games, and maybe that conversation is interesting to you guys. I know a lot with the NDA dropping, this is probably not the most riveting conversation compared to the game content. I wasn't able to partake in the Alpha 1. I could have bought it, but I was fine waiting for Alpha 2 personally. And I'm sure I'll do plenty of testing whenever that day comes, and I might take up some time from work to do the Alpha or the Alpha 2 or the beta, but that's many months down the road, I'm sure. But yeah, as things develop, I'll probably be doing some kind of soft content. I don't have any expectation to get content creator access to the game. I'm a very small kind of streamer and post some YouTube videos, but I'm new to this stuff, guys, and just do it for more social reasons. But I'll probably get some kind of overlay developed for Ashes of Creation. I'll probably be playing New World as well, so I'll probably do something MMO themed and be playing both. But it sounds like New World's coming out first. I'll probably dabble into that, and then hopefully it's a game we all like and enjoy, and then eventually Ashes will come out, and I'll be probably doing a lot of content for that. But I can't tell you the things that I'm looking forward to. I'll just sum it up on some fun stuff that I think is interesting. Then I'll call the stream here, guys. I gotta get ready to go tonight to sleep here. But I thought the character creation thing that they were talking about releasing would be awesome. So like in the next year, if like by the end of this year, if they could just release the character creation screen, it won't be like, have everything in there, but if they could release like the bulk of it to us, oh, that would be so awesome if we could have that. Like even if the game's like a year or two down the road, it would still be fun to have the character creation screen, because I'm sure that would just take up a few hours for each of us, just going in there and playing around, creating 3 or 4 characters, and just sharing that with your guild mates that you're kind of aligned with. And because it sounds like the nodes are like racial based upon the experience of the adventurers, and that's going to create the nodes from what I've been talking to people about. So like I'm sure there's going to be guilds that are going to be saying, hey, we want everyone to be an orc, or we want everyone to be Vec. That way it turns out to be that. And so everyone has to, if you want to be in this guild, you have to launch as a Vec. Or Tunir, or whatever, and so I'm sure those things will be happening. So that'd be fun to create, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how the world shapes. That's down the road. But the character creation tree as a starting point to keep us like chewing on some bacon over here, I think that would be awesome. By the end of the year, it'd be a nice Christmas present. Maybe they could work up to, and that'd be a lot of fun. Make a lot of people happy. The other things I'm looking forward to personally, guys, is hearing more about the node and the religious kind of stuff, and how like the nodes progress, and seeing that. I think that's a main one, because I've never heard of anything like that in a game like this before, so I'm very curious to learn more about that. I was reading the wiki today, and the military, it looked like the military trait or nodes, and then the divine nodes were the ones that didn't have the special power. I'm probably miscategorizing that, guys. I just kind of glanced through there today, so I'm probably getting the phrasing wrong, but looked like the economic and the scientific had their superpower. One was like trading with a lot of different nodes or sister kind of alliances for economic, and then similarly for the scientific was teleportation and kind of augments for crafting and gathering, it sounded like. I might be getting some of that wrong, but the main one was a superpower was teleportation, either to their vassal nodes or to other allied alliance nodes, it sounded like, which is awesome. Fast travel for events and such, to get there first is probably going to be very, very important and helpful. But I'm very interested in hearing what the military and divine will be, because it's really hard to, like my alliance just put out a poll today saying, okay, which type or node do we want to go after, military, divine, scientific, or economic? And it's really hard to grade them or like choose, because we only have part of the information on 2, and we don't have it on the other, so it's not a fair fight. But for what we're going for so far, my alliance was like pretty heavily skewed towards scientific, and that's what I voted for as well. My second choice would have been economic. I do worry about the economic part with like some other player just coming over from a different server from like leaving their prior one, waiting 2 weeks or whatever the downtime is, and then just buying your governance ship just to play with you guys and throw a wrench in the works. So I do worry about the economic one from not necessarily griefing. I'm not sure what you would call that, but I could see like server transfers and some very large bank accounts buying the biggest governorship. I could see a lot of movement like that. So those ones kind of worry me. But there's gonna be challenges to all of them. But I think that's fun. And the major one I think I'm looking for is, I think we all are, is more of those awesome videos that they put out to YouTube, showing, and I'm sure they'll release those to the content creators that they elect in the game as well. But more of the class kind of animations and showcases, I guess I'll call it, of the different kind of spell abilities and such. I think that's something that I'll be looking forward to a lot. And I think I'm most interested in the summoner class, but then I just found out today you're not like weapon locked. I thought the rangers would have to use bows, but then I heard nope. And from the wiki and talking to people, they can use melee weapons as well. So they kind of a melee class range, and then they have a range from a further distance. And so if you can start using, I heard people that were testing from the NDA, that's where all this information came from, were using like halberds as a mage. So there's like going to be all sorts of different kind of classes. I'm not sure if that's going to be viable, in endgame or like that, but it's interesting that you're not weapon locked so far. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, more prototypical stuff, and it doesn't let me down at all, but it's more variety, and it's more of a curveball towards what we can expect. And I think you have to be more fluid in kind of like your builds, and it's not just going to be, okay, you're a bowman, so here's your bow, and take range weapon damage, skill upgrades. It's going to be more complex than that, and more variety in your play style. So I think that's a positive thing, but it's going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of those class showcases, because I'm personally very interested in the summoner class. I think they're all going to be cool, but yeah, I think the summoner class, I think that's just the biggest unknown. So it's not necessarily I want to choose that, but that's the one I'm very curious to see what the summons are. I heard them talking about like maybe multiple summoners could like summon something bigger like a golem, and it'll be interesting to see which direction they go with that. I know a lot of players, I'm never too far into the ghoul stuff and all that, but I know a lot of players love playing necromancers and necros, so I imagine that's going to be in the game in some form or fashion, and it'll be interesting to see when that all comes out, because you just know there's certain elements or segments of the community that's going to be really excited every time they do those showcases and show off those abilities. And I'm hoping, one of my other hopes is that the classes, even though they might not have complete variety from reading the wiki, like it's not like there are 8 main archetypes and then there's 64 like sub varieties of those. But what I'm hoping for is that they look different in some ways. And I'm hoping like a necromancer doesn't look exactly the same as like a conjurist for a summoner class, for example, or a falconer doesn't look the same as a different class of ranger. I hope they have some differences, so their armor isn't exactly the same look, because just thematically a necromancer that's doing like dark magic should look a little bit differently than somebody that's doing like more light oriented magic, or summoning a teddy bear. It's just gonna be, I feel like this should be 2 different kind of audiences, and the necromancer kind of group probably, they don't want to play as like an angel looking being. They probably want to be very dark and those kind of clothing items and such. So hopefully thematically they can hit that and really make hit those marks so people can get into it. And I think that's part of the immersion, and what a lot of people play for is that feeling that their character a little bit unique and they kind of stand out from the crowd. So even if the skills are more or less the same with just like small elements of variety, or just like those little augments that may or may not be small, I think blinking, I call it blinking from League of Legends, but teleporting small distances is actually a significant thing. I would consider that small, but whatever augments they allow for the skills based on your secondary class, hopefully those stand out in some ways. And I'm also hoping that the look of the character is a little bit different, and I'm not sure if that'll be animations necessarily, but it'd be nice if they their clothing and their aesthetic was different, so they stood out from their peers. But that's it, guys. I'm getting a little tired. I gotta hit it. I gotta get back in the morning and head off. But for those of you guys who are watching, Again, I'm Lark Wyll. I'll probably be putting out some content every now and again for the game as more of it's coming out, kind of like my thoughts. And until I can hop in the game and play myself, in Alpha 2, it's probably 6 months away. Hope not much more than that, but no dates. I'll just be doing more Q&A stuff, and if anyone, you guys have any other ideas for topics, feel free to let me know and I'll dive into those. But I might have a little bit of a different take just because I'm coming from a different background, but I've played MMOs before, and that's definitely my favorite genre of game to play. And I definitely look forward to hopping into Ashes Creation when it's finally out. Polar. What role and race? So we had polls set up in my guild. It's funny. I don't take pride in it, but the one that stood out to me early on was Empyrean, which I think is an elf. And a lot of times, like, I don't know why it is. I like the lore of I guess the key phrases. So it's like when they were talking about the races and like what 3 words or adjectives they kind of live by. The Empyrean elf kind of stood out to me, but I don't know if I might play as something else. Again, when they come out with the character kind of selection screen, I'm sure I'll play with it around with a lot of different stuff. I wouldn't mind playing as an orc or a dwarf if the dwarfs look kind of neat. It kind of depends on how they do the dwarfs. If they look kind of rad, I definitely wouldn't mind kind of hobbling around, but otherwise, I do tend to like big and tall kind of things. They just stand out more, and I feel more like powerful in game. Yeah, it's just kind of I like the stature of a larger kind of character. So probably either one of the orc classes or the Empyrean elf. And I don't know, it might depend on my guild though. So if my guild wants to actually make their node a certain race, I might have to go along with that. They haven't mentioned anything like that. They just had a poll. And Empyrean was the highest, but that was before I knew that the races actually developed the nodes into their kind based upon experience. So if they want to be, like humans, maybe I have to choose a human class. I don't know. And I'm also curious, like if you're starting, I'm not sure if this is known yet, but it might depend on where your starting point is. So if my guild all starts in one area of the landmass based upon the race, and I have to travel like a week to get to them. If I was like say a Vec and I want to play as an orc, but I want to play with my guild, and if I had to waste a week, or a couple of days just traveling to get over to them, that would be hard to like convince myself is worth it, at least as a starting character. So I probably want to start in the same area they are. So until I find out like we all start in the same place regardless of race, it'll really be hard to commit mentally to anything, just because you don't want all that downtime. I think in World of Warcraft too, early on when I was playing, it's hard to get to the other starting spot, so that wasn't really possible without a lot of effort. But and then regarding class, Summoner, and then the subclass, it really depends on the active abilities. So the names sound cool, and I could pick a name that sounds cool to me, but until we see what the active abilities are, it's really hard to say which one. I can tell you which one sounds nice to me as like a title, but it really depends on the active ability. So I like usually being a balance between like PvE content and PvP. But I thought you would have to lock in, but it sounds like from talking to people, you can actually change with an NPC in a city. So as long as you went back to the city, and then you could change your secondary class. So my primary would be Summoner, and then depending on the mode of content I was playing, I would probably switch around based upon that. I'm not sure how like viable that is in the meta, because you'd probably, depending on your secondary class, I'm not sure if that means you would need to like update your skill tree as well. It's all things we'll need to find out. I'm not sure how much the secondary classes will really change your skill tree you'd want, if at all. Maybe it does. But yeah, I think, gosh, I don't know if I have it up right now. I have it on my phone. 1 second. But yeah, it's a good question, for sure. How about yourself? Were you interested in playing something certain? I will say my favorite stream was watching the PvP stream where Steven was just getting roasted. Poor guy. But the fighter looked really good with that knockdown stun. And if that's very reliable as something to do, I saw on the wiki it was like chance to knock down, but maybe you can upgrade it to 100%. because poor Steven was getting knocked down constantly, and that looked like a done deal. And I was like, oh man, that fighter looks like a fun class. If you can knock somebody down and then start beating on them, it's hard to beat that with a gap closer like that. So I wasn't really enthusiastic about the mage for PvP, unless you're standing on a castle rooftop and like very far away from the fight. You know, it's obviously early content, and I'm sure it's just like low-level abilities. And it's not like he wasn't necessarily, his toolbar wasn't prepared for it like that. Oh, he didn't use the blank. Yeah, I think he mentioned it at one point too. I remember that. I'm sure he was, you know, flustered. And if I was playing somebody, and you know, of course too, if you were like the employee Steven, you'd be trying to give them your best effort. they're probably equipped for it and wanting to show off and stream, or not necessarily show off, but they're probably wanting to have fun with it. So, yeah, I imagine he was. And like, I get nervous playing on stream too. I know a lot of people don't, but I probably start thinking about too much and like, okay, you just start thinking too much. It's like I used to play baseball, and if you're thinking too much when you step in the block or in the box to swing, it's not always the best outcome. Sometimes you just need to do like muscle memory to a certain extent. And yeah, it's not like the key bindings and the different kind of taskbars for your skills were still in development, so I'm not sure if he even had them like memorized at all. But yeah, looking at the summoner stuff, I don't know. I guess it depends. You know what? I might even just play as a bard. Like, if I'm going to stream the game though, it's usually you want to be in the action. I heard from people that were playing the tank class, but who knows, like at low levels, what it feels like. But from some of the folks that were putting on information after the NDA verbal got released, they were saying the tank class actually played more as like a damage dealing fighter, and not just as an aggro tank. So I'm curious if that's the case. Cause if the tank just plays as like a melee damage DPS, I might be more interested in it. But if the tank has to be the shot caller, I probably would be less interested in it, just because typically that's not a role I play. I'm normally not like the raid leader, like showing people where to go in the dungeon. I'm usually somewhere in the middle or the back doing DPS, or like support. Usually DPS is what I normally play as. But yeah, so I don't, probably not a tank, but I think out of the summoner ones, just the names. Beastmaster sounds fun, but again, it's really just, to me, those are just names. I think somebody else stated it right, is that instead of looking at the names of the roles or the classes, it's better just to say, okay, what's your base class or primary class? It's, say, mage, and your secondary class is tank, so you're an MT, a mage tank. And so like if somebody's saying, hey, somebody's coming up, it's an MT. If I'm looking them up on tab, and then okay, see, they're a mage and their secondary is a tank, they're an MT, and that might be easier to identify them, other than saying a mage tank is a spellstone, because it's probably going to get hard to memorize those names, and maybe those names don't really signify what their active abilities really do. It might be like incongruous. But I'm looking forward to finding out. Maybe they're right on. Maybe a Hawkeye really has a hawk, you know, I don't know. The Falconer might have a falcon on his shoulder and send it off to do stuff. So really curious how these play out. If it's just kind of a play on words just to give the subclasses a name, or else if they actually embody the title. And I'm sure some, like a paladin, will be, you know, a tank cleric is pretty straightforward. The tank's going to have some kind of healing ability augment for one of their abilities. So that's pretty straightforward. But some of the other ones, it's really hard to tell or know how it's going to play out. So yeah, I think it's definitely my number one thing I'm looking forward to seeing is them slowly releasing more of that content to us in those class showcase. I think those are my favorite things that I've seen so far. Those are really enjoyable. Yeah, Wizzy, I heard the cleric from everyone on the NDA were saying that the cleric class was really good. I thought usually when I think of clerics, I think of all just like kind of heal bots. They normally don't appeal to me that reason, because I normally want to play a little bit more active role and do the grunt stuff, swing an axe and, you know, fire a bow. But the heard that the clerics actually do some damage, and they were like doing pretty good DPS. You know, it's low levels and, you know, just the training island or wherever they were at. But the character showcase for the cleric was kind of interesting. I liked the abilities they had. And I'm trying not to mix them up with the mage, but I think the one that stood out to me was the chain heal. That was kind of like lightning, had like a lightning look, and then the one that was kind of looked like a lance from ESO. I'll be honest, it looked like very similar to a skill I saw from ESO, which was I forgot what class it was from Elder Scrolls Online, like their light class. It was just that light beam lance, and you like throw the javelin. And so the healer had that one in this game. That I don't want to call it a they pulled it from that game, but very similar. And maybe that comes from, they're all derivative. Like, resurrecting somebody is, derivative of 100 games. It's not from any one game. So I'm sure that Lance kind of lightning ability, Zeus does it. So it's all derivative from Zeus, like in the old, Greek mythology. So it's not necessarily from ESO. It just happens to be, looks, that's what it reminds me of. It doesn't mean that's where they got it from. That's just, the last game I played that has that look. The tank hook was cool. Yeah, it looked cool. My only concern with the tank hook was, is that more for PvE like aggroing, or is it more of a PvP ability? It was a little bit rooted, so because I think where you're pulling them to you, it was a little bit of a root for a self root. So like in a group combat, I'm sure the tank can take the hits, but I'm wondering if he's like a little bit defenseless while he's using that ability. But yeah, it looked like a really strong thing to do, like in small skirmishes. I imagine in those caravans, you're going to have like a line of tanks just running up and using those hooks and pulling people over to them, and kind of like breaking up and causing hysteria in the ranks. And that's going to be a very common ability we see, I imagine. But yeah, it is very cool to see, and I like that they're being creative with it. And I think the more of those things that they do to make the game have its own unique feel, but also like be somewhat like archetypal, is finding a good balance is probably the right way to put it, is where they probably want to aim. And I don't put words in their mouth. They're probably much smarter at that than I am, of course. But I think that's probably, you want to stand out and be unique, within the genre. You don't want to just be like, again, completely derivative. But they're already doing the Holy Trinity and having that kind of class A beats class B beats class C kind of thing going on. And I think that's good to do. It makes sure that everything's viable, and that one class, fighter just doesn't dominate all the rest. The fighter should be weak to other things, and mage should be weak to other things and strong to others. So it'll be curious to see how they do that, because I'm not sure if they're going to be doing it by like a class type, because like I was interested in them when they said summoner is actually a support class in the wiki, and but I've seen other language saying it's kind of a joker class where it's not great at anything. They didn't state that, but it said like it's more of it could perform well in any role, is what I saw, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing in the wiki. So I'm curious how the summoner class does that while it's also being stated as support. And I could understand that it has support roles or subclasses, like from secondary classes or certain skills that are support. But if you're able to tank, usually that's not support. But I guess you're supporting your group in that way. But is it a support class? So that's why I'm kind of most interested in seeing the summoner class be showcased, because it can go so many different directions. And then the other one, from a racial standpoint, is it the Tulnar? Am I getting that right? Tulnar. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right or making up words here, but from a racial standpoint, how it can be like ambiguous, and I'm curious to see like from a character creation and what direction people go with Tulnar. Okay, I think I got that right. And what they do with this kind of underground kind of layer that they have, or not layer, but underground kind of environment they have that they're building, and that sounds unique. And is that going to be like some other advancement in the game? Because is that part of the note system, or is that just part of the questing? I haven't seen a lot, and I'm still learning about the game, guys, so bear with me if I'm ignorant to anything that's pretty obvious to you guys. But yeah, I thought that was interesting, and I'm interested in seeing what direction they take with that race. And is it a starting race that we can choose, or is it going to be something on an expansion that we get? And I'm not in a huge hurry to find that out. I think I'm perfectly fine waiting to hearing. These are just some of the things I'm curious about. I don't have answers for, so I'm looking forward to hearing. I know some of the streamers, guys, they know all this stuff, but I don't know. I'll be honest. Like if I start streaming the game, like in one sense, I think like you owe it to like learn as much about the game and lore and to know all the answers as possible. And then in another sense, I heard Steve make a good comment. He was saying like another game developer was saying like you almost don't want to know too much about a game in development in pre-release because it'll take away and spoil some of the enjoyment when it inevitably launches because you feel like you've seen it all and been there before. So I definitely appreciate like when I was reading on the wiki and I saw a quote from Steve saying we don't want to release too much about the religions yet and the religious note systems and their development because we want it to be a surprise. And I was happy he said that because I was like happy not to know. Like some things I want to know now. Like I want to know how some of these classes, you know, their secondary augments sound like really interesting. I'm curious what they probably haven't developed at all. It's probably still in the works, you know. But I'm very curious to find out. We all start somewhere. Yeah, yeah. I think the game has a lot of. There's a lot of hope for the game. I think there's a lot of promise, and I think the game has a lot of good things it can do. I'm hoping they don't try to like introduce way too much or have the full world fleshed out upon launch, and then have it all be kind of like dumbed down. I think they should ramp up, especially you know the first entrance area and the areas that we'll be spending a lot of time in early on, and then have the outlying areas or maybe the waterways be like a future expansions. If they can get it all done, fantastic. But I imagine ramping it all up to the same high quality. It's such a large world and such a world with such kind of high standards towards being so ambitious. It would be very challenging to do all on launch on day one. So I'm hoping. I think it's just me as a consumer. I'm hoping the game doesn't get delayed for 2 or 3 years while they're trying to do it all at once. And I'm perfectly fine as a consumer just playing on land for the first year and a half, 2 years of the game are out. And then if they need to take 2 years to develop the water, I'd rather play the land version of the game and the notes. I think we would all have a blast doing that. I don't think we'd have to have it all at once. I'm perfectly fine just having a slice of the pie and not having it all. And but it's up to them. That's just my thoughts on that. I don't know if that's shared at all with other potential players of the game. Knowing firsthand how good the cleric's combat feels pre-combat upgrade, fighter and rogue are now on radar where a week ago fighter wasn't. Yeah, I'm always interested in rogues. Like it's always the one that sounds like very interesting to me, and then I always like when I get to the character creation screen, I always just like ease away from it. And not that I don't want to play as a rogue, it's just I always have a hard time convincing myself it's like the most well-rounded class. In my first character, I usually want one that I can like solo stuff with, and it's not going to be so fragile. So it depends on how they do the rogue class. If it's going to be like as sturdy as a fighter, but you're just using certain weapons, like you're like kind of weapon locked to like daggers and knives and things like that, I would have a problem with it. But like if you're like this glass cannon and like you're really limited in what content you can run, obviously they're always PvP oriented, but like if you can't solo like certain PvE stuff that all the other classes are able to, I'm like, oh no, or else there's death loss in this game. So I just heard like there's, I think they were saying that it's still under, I don't know if it's actually been figured out, but like 3 or 7% somewhere in there is what it's set to now, or that they were thinking about. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I heard that number flying around today, so I don't know if that's right. But if there's a significant amount of like death loss experience, I would be more. I can see why so many people would say I want to play as like a paladin, because they want to do a self heal or something with regen, or like life drain, like a necro or something like that. Cleric obviously would appeal to a lot of people. That way you don't lose progress, especially with your first character when you're learning the game. And there's PvP too. So if somebody's is able to PvP you, kill you, and then they're actually rewinding your level progress significantly, oh man, that would be rough. Like especially when you get to higher levels. I'm sure at the lower levels, pre 25, it's not that big of a deal. But if somebody's just, even if it's just costing you like an hour of like level progress and spending another hour trying to get back to that same standpoint, I don't mind dying. But if you're costing me significant amounts of time in progression, what character you choose and what secondary augments can be very important. That way you're maximizing survivability to a certain extent. Because if you're just dying really fast, man, your level progress, you're just going to be completely rewinding yourself more than your peers are, who are more survivable or can at least escape and stealth and GTFO. But if you're dying a lot to like solo bosses and a cleric comes in there and it's like doing a little self heal zap and can beat it, there's going to be that's going to be a strategic choice, and I'm sure they're going to balance it out to where it all feels good. But a lot of times, like the one fatal flaw dagger users, rogues have is usually their glass cannons, and usually there's a drawback to that, to where you normally have to do some PvE content in groups. If it's especially if it's a tough boss that's over your level, usually you need somebody tanking it or healing you for it, and so it probably depends on who you're playing with. If you're playing solo, those kind of things. Oh, Wizzy, were you actually in the pre-alpha earlier over the weekend? Yeah, I heard about it. I also heard it was bugged, so I think they said it wasn't operating the way it will, or what is intended. So from everybody that I heard talking about it, they basically said, yeah, just ignore it. Yes, it was impactful during the pre-alpha, but that's not the way it's going to be at launch, so it's no big deal. So yeah, I'm just curious. Like, if it's 1% progress, that won't be impactful until very, very end game. But if it's like 7% experience progress, even at like level 20 for a lot of games, that might take you an hour or two to get back. Or you might have to like redo some long quest with a tough boss to get it back. So, yeah, I'd be careful. I'm not like giving advice for anybody else. The game's not out or anything like that. But like for me, like when I'm doing roster selection, like I could see why people would early on might do like Paladin as their secondary class, or not Paladin, but Cleric, and that way you have some kind of like self-heal while you're going and doing like solo PvE content. And then later, as you get more comfortable and get better equipment, maybe you move away from that. But I could see Cleric being a very common secondary class, early on for folks that are trying to like level grind. That way you don't reset your progress. But that's just me. Yeah, that's just my early thoughts, and long ways away from the game release and playing myself in Alpha 2. But if that is like a 7% reset, I do want to. I heard too that the mobs were mixed. That there were, so it's not just like level 5 mobs around a circle, and that's all there is in that area. I heard from I forgot what his name is, Jalan. I just started watching people, guys. So if I'm pronouncing these guys' names wrong, I apologize. But and I think he was the one that was stating that there were mixed mob groups. So you might have like a level 12, 13, 14, and a 15, like bigger ones. And you got to be careful what kind of like pulls you do, because you might be trying to get the level 12, but you might pull the 15s, and then you got to make a run for it because it's going to be challenging. Hey Grumpy, how you doing, bud? Hope you're having a good night. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, so it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to learn it. They were mixed. Yeah, so I think early on too, especially with everyone that's getting in early on into it, I'm sure there's gonna be some solo folks, but a lot of us are gonna be playing in groups because we're already gonna be playing in guilds, and there's gonna be fun, and you're gonna want to like run around with each other. So. And explore together and try to do like a raid like on day one. So I imagine a lot of people are going to be doing group content right away. So yeah, you'll probably start forming like grab a cleric, grab a tank, and grab a DPS, and you're probably going to see a lot of groups of 3 and 5 start running around doing stuff. You don't have a guild? Slacker. I don't think there's any necessarily reason to do so. I just do it for social aspects, and I thought it'd be good for Q&A for me to start talking to people and getting my bearings. So in the game, and so I joined one off Discord called Axiom, and I came from a different foam game, so all the little I always like reading the different kind of guild invites, their backstory and all that stuff, and what they're all about. It's just fun to me. So like that was like one of the first things I did. I hopped on the Ashes Discord channel and went straight to guild invites and just read through them just because those are fun. There was one, they were very water themed, but I actually think they were coming for another game I played, Albion Online, a full loop PvP game. And they were saying they want to be reavers and they want to dominate the oceans and do all of the kind of naval content, and they just want to dominate out there, and they're going to kill everything that goes on the water. And it's like, oh man, they're just going to be a full PvP oriented group, and they're going straight for water content. I don't know if the water is going to be out there. Maybe it is, but yeah, there's some of these guilds definitely have agendas from the get-go, so watch out whenever the game goes live. Yes, see a little crossbones over somebody's head with their guild name. Usually that means they're up to no good. But I forgot what their name was. But yes, anyway, it's fun to read those. And yeah, depending on what there's always going to be a guild, for every taste. And whether it's PvP or crafting guilds or trading guilds, economic ones, there's going to be a guild for everybody. I just think it's just fun to start talking to people that are like-minded and are excited about the game. And it's kind of helps me stay interested and also just kind of learn about it. So that's kind of what I was doing. It might have been Black Sails. It may have been. That sounds right. I know the leader, and it was talking about he was from Albion. So if in his bio, if it says Albion Online, that was it. And he mentioned something about being Reavers as like their MO. I can't remember their emblem right now, but at least to start, I don't plan on playing like in a pure PvP guild. Maybe I'm sure I'll do PvP content, but like, who knows? And if we find out the military nodes have some awesome special bonus, maybe I just switch to do a full PvP and dive into that. What I haven't heard is if there's going to be any difference between servers, like a PvP, I'm sorry, not a PvP, but like a full loot servers or like more like servers with like safe zones. I haven't heard any of that, so I'm very curious if the game is going to have variation. But all right, guys, it is that time. It is midnight. I gotta pass out. I can't believe I was on here for so long. No full loot. I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure if there were going to be like more expanded like safe zones or like ones that with like different flagging rules, different things like that for PvP. From what I heard, every server is going to have the same rules, but I'm curious to find out. But Wizzy, Grumpy, Polar, appreciate you guys. Puppies, I think, passed out a long time ago, but thanks for hopping on, guys. This is definitely my first ever stream doing anything Ashes Creation minded, but I'll probably have an overlay, guys, so you guys will see a different background at some point, but I'll do something. But I'll probably be talking about the game more in the weeks to come. But yeah, you bet. Thanks for hopping on and chatting with me, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good night. See ya.